will be uploaded and then will be shared via Call Campus. So just a quick review. So this is your Call Campus. I hope you're all aware on how the Call Campus works. And you've managed to use Call Campus before. I believe since you are not, this is not your first year, you have managed to use Call Campus before. So the login for Call Campus is callcampus.com. And then it's going to take you to Call Campus, and you're going to use your Boston student number, your student email, as well as the password that you created. And then you're going to log in, and then you will find different modules that you are going through. And then while you find those modules, one of the courses will actually be Finance in Media, where you're going to see your 2024 Finance in Media, and then that's where you're going to go. So on my side, I'll also see 2023, since I was using the 20, I was also there as part of the lecture for 2023. And then you will see the home side, where under the home side, you'll be able to see that this is your lecturer for Finance in Media, which is me, and my email. So meaning that if you need anything and you don't want to use the class rep to communicate with me, then you can just come and select my email and then send me an email. If you do not want, if it is above me that you feel like I cannot be able to help you, you can contact Nathan Govender, which is the academic manager for these courses, which is Finance in Media and others as well. And from Nathan, if Nathan is not of good help, then you can go and move towards to Karike Viboy, which is then the academic coordinator for the Central Campus, as well as Arcadia Campus. So if she is not of help at all, the last person then you can contact is Dr. Hendrik Botha, which is the academic head for Boston Media House Institution. That's the person that you can contact us. So that is the chain of command in terms of communication and resolving issues. So in terms of our assessment, this is under your courses, you enter through your course, and then here you will see that we've got the module outline, what you're going to be covering and what you need to understand. We also have got the rotational schedule, which allows you to be able to, which will allow you to be able to see when are we rotating. So we are following a first year rotation program where we are 2 weeks on contact and 1 week online. So like we are now, we're online, which is the 3rd week. So next week we're going to contact, and then the week after that is contact again, and then the 3rd week after that is going to be online. And then here you'll see that we're going to have lecturer links, where you'll get to receive or see all the links that are relating to our lessons, as well as for the online classes. So here you've got your online classes links. So for Tuesday, just come and click this link. For Friday, just come and click this link for attendance. If you haven't joined the WhatsApp group, this is the link for the WhatsApp group that you will use to join the WhatsApp group. And then here we then have information and slides. So here it says week 1, which was 19 February to 24. It was contact classes. You will see that we've got a roadmap. A roadmap is a document that allows you to understand what you're going to be studying during that week, what is the main outcome of the lesson. And then here where it says part 1, PPT part 1. So this is a PowerPoint presentation that I use in class that has now been converted into a PDF for you to be able to use when studying. So if you are a very active student who like to be ahead, who like to do pre-reading before class, it will be advisable that you come in and then download this and go through this before we go into class. By the time we go into class, you will already have an idea of what we're going to cover, what is going to be assessed on class. And then if you have got question after studying using the textbook, then you can then bring those questions in class. I've also done a summative briefing using a video where I use this PowerPoint presentation that we use during class to do a short briefing on what you're going to be assessed on in terms of your first formative assessment. If you're not in class, you can come and watch the recording as well as to view the briefing for the 2024 formative assessments for Finance in Media. So week 2, all lessons are also here. And then here you'll notice that we have got, we are currently in week 3. So whatever we're going to cover this week it's already uploaded here, lesson 6, which is going to be our Friday lesson. So you can come and download this and use this as part of pre-learning, doing your pre-learning. And then also you need to know that when it comes to plagiarism, the university does not allow plagiarism. So if you are going to write any online assessment or online assignment that is going to be requested, make sure that it does not contain plagiarism at all. And then here under files, you also get to see some files that you can be able to access, which are the files relating to everything that we have covered so far, including all documents that have been issued out. So as you can see, currently we're in week 6, so everything have been uploaded, but I'm not sure if you guys do have access to this, or it's just only me as a lecturer who have got access to this. And also if you send me inbox while I'm on Cal Campus, I'll be able to receive that. So now that we are done with the Cal Campus, it's time now to go back to our lesson for today. So our lesson for today is not a very big lesson. It's just a very short lesson, but very informative and as well as practical. So today's lesson is going to be talking about basic mathematics, which is now starting our chapter 2 as well. So before we start, we're going to quickly go through a revision of everything we covered from lesson number 1 to 4, which is just a short revision. So we do know that before any transaction can be transferred to financial statement, it has to be summarized, organized, and recorded within the financial books of the company. And every transaction has an effect on the financial position of an enterprise, and transaction must be classified, recorded, summarized to show its effects on the financial position of the business, where the financial position of the business is just a bigger what? It's just a summary of what we call the accounting equation. So meaning that based on our previous lesson, we understand that for each and every transaction, there will be 2 or more accounts that will be affected, and for those accounts, we'll therefore have to classify them either as a what? Assets, liabilities, or owner's equity. And we'll have to record them within the accounting equation as well as the general ledger. And from general ledger, those information will be posted to the trial balance. And once it's posted to the trial balance, the balances will therefore be transferred to the what? To your statement of financial position, which is either statement of financial position or income statement. We also identify that income and expenses affect the equity and are therefore referred as nominal account. So I'll just try to look at my pen so that I can be able to use it. So they're also referred as nominal account, and the nominal accounts provide information for the income statement, as I've already explained on our last revision class. And then while the asset, liability, and equity account provide information for the balance sheet or statement of financial position. We also understand the general ledger, which is basically a T form of an account, where we know that we have got a left side and a right side, where the left side is the debit side and the right side is the credit side. And the debit side or the credit side doesn't mean plus or minus. It only depends on the classification of account, whether that account is positive or negative. And we also understand that when we enter something on the left side of the account, this is known as debiting the account, and a debit entry is put through or the account is debited. And then when we put something on the right side, we are crediting the account. So here it says that a debit amount on one ledger account must have an equal credit on the other's ledger account. So meaning that if we debit one account, we need to credit the other account. And we also then identify that this is known as the double entry system rule. So here it's explaining the accounting equation in a summary format to say that accounts that have got debit balance, we have got assets, and then those that have got credit balance, we have got our liabilities as well as equities. And then here we already know that your assets must be equals to your owner's equity plus liability. And a debit balance can only be one of 2 things, an asset or an expense. And those who have got credit balance can only be one of two things, which can be income or liability. The accounting equation can therefore also be written in the format as follows. How money is applied, which is debit, where money is coming from, which is credit, assets plus expenses equals to liabilities plus income. So at the end of the day, this will have our accounting equation always have to balance. So here it also says that when you sell stock item, there is a change in stock, there is a change in cash or debtors. So this is one of the most biggest thing in terms of understanding. This is transaction. One transaction that gets to be a complicated transaction is when you actually sell stock, because it doesn't affect just only two accounts, but it affects four accounts. The first account is your sales, the second account is your bank if you're selling in cash, and then the other two account is your trade inventory as well as cost of sales. And then same thing apply when you buy stock to resell. There is a change in stock and change in cash or creditors. This affects only two account. So that's why it is important to emphasize on these two, because they're the most commonly repeated transaction within a business if you're in a business of selling items. So just a quick activity, just to make sure that we are still in good standing, just to make sure that you give me assurance that you understand the accounting equation as well as the T account, because this is something that you're going to be tested on. So that's why I'll keep emphasizing that you understand this. So I'm going to give you guys just 2 minutes just to read all these transactions. After reading them, we are going to start answering this transaction, and I'll ask you guys, or I'll just pick you if you cannot raise your hand, to say, please let us know which account should be debited and which account should be credited. So just to make sure that everything is running smoothly, can I just see thumbs up? Just a moment. I think there is echo in my... Okay, everything is back to normal. Please just give me thumbs up just to indicate that you can still see my screen and I'm still audible enough. Okay, thank you very much. So 2 minutes, just read whatever is on the screen and then we can start. Okay, I think you might have already read everything. So let's just work around this together and solve this out. So starting with the first one, indicate the account that will be influenced by the following transaction. Sell advertising space for cash. So which account will be debited and which account will be credited? Let's see. Please make sure that you raise your hand before you say anything so that you don't interfere with the others as well as me while I'm also speaking. Who would like to attempt the first one? Sell advertising space for cash. What will be the account that will be debited and what will be the account that will be credited? Anyone? Or should I just pick from the list? Okay, Segina says bank will be debited, then which other account will be credited? Which other account will be credited? One already mentioned that bank will be debited. Someone says, and Tando says sales will be credited. Okay, do you all agree? Debit, bank, credit, sales. Do you all agree? Okay, the correct answer, all the answers that are given are 100% correct. So meaning that on this side, when we analyze the transaction on what happened, so it means that we have got advertising space. So advertising space, it means that we're either running a media company where we've got billboards, we've got display screen on public spaces where people can then advertise, like those one you see on the road when the screens are busy showing adverts. So those are what we call advertising space, as well as your billboards, as well as your those small advertising banner space that is available on the roads. So those are advertising space. For you to be able to advertise there, you need to have registered with the municipalities and make sure that they give you a license to say that this is a permanent space for you to advertise. If you're in a business of advertising for others, they'll also give you a license for that to say that you can advertise here any different type of form, but you are only allowed for this specific size depending on the location. If it is a billboard, you'll also need approval from municipality and you'll get to pay certain amount of fees on a monthly basis for you to keep that billboard over there on the road. So you get to pay on a monthly basis or either weekly basis, depending on the company policy in which is advertising. So that's what we refer as an advertising space. So you are selling that to a client. So if you sell that, you're going to say sales goes up. So meaning that when sales goes up on the credit side. So therefore here we're going to come and say the sales account will be created. And since we are selling the space for cash, so therefore our bank account will be debited since it increases on the debit side. And then this brings us now to buys goods on credit. So which account are we going to debit and which account are we going to credit? You can use the chat section if you do not want to use the mic, because if you have to use the mic, please make sure you raise the hand and then I will unmute. I'll allow you to unmute and then ask your question. So let's hear, guys, on the second one. Buy goods on credit. Which account will be debited? Which account will be credited? Please, let's use the chat section. Since there's no one who would like to use the mic. If you can be able to master the accounting equation as well as the T accounts, like I could already guarantee you a 50% pass as on your assessment. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be reading this right. It says Tlulugelo. She's saying that we debit inventory and credit accounts payable. Pearl on the other side, it says goods will be debited and then creditors will be credited. So in this case, we've got two people with different views. The other one saying debit inventory, credit account payable. So there's no different view, just different terminologies. So they're both having the same view. So the other one used the word goods, the other one used inventory, the other one used account payable, the other one used creditors. So which are still all correct. So in this case, we are buying goods on credit. So it means that our credit, which means that we'll now owe the supplier some money. So when we owe supplier some money, it means that our credit is increasing. Our loan from our supplier it's increasing, and it's going to be a liability. Liabilities increase on the credit side. So which means that this side we're going to have what? Our account payables. And then this side, we're going to have our inventory, or what other call it trading stock. We're going to have that. So either you call it inventory or either you call it trading stock. And then you're gonna debit your inventory, credit your account payable. So which means that our inventory is going up as well as our liabilities are going up. So this means that it's both plus on the asset side and a both plus on the liability side. So this means that now our accounting equation will be balanced. And then this brings us now to the third one. It says make payment to municipality paying water and electricity.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you please raise your hand so that I can be able to see it next time so that we don't get to interfere on each other while speaking.
Oh, I did. Didn't see.
Yes, please, when you raise it, just wait for some few moments, then I'll be able to see your hand and then I'll be able to unmute. Yes, is it Manda?
Yes.
Yes, you can ask your question.
Would I be wrong if I said account debited would be asset and then account credited would be liability?
Yes, it will be incorrect due to the fact that those are the elements in the accounting, so they are not classified as account, they are classified as elements. So accounts were referring to your normal account, we are referring to transaction, to those small I don't know how to put an account, to define an account in an exact way that will make it much simpler. But to make it much simpler, I will say that those are the small file you create where you get to record each and every transaction that gets to affect that specific kind of file. So you file your things or group your things according to the type of assets that is going to be classified as that account that will be classified as an asset or liability. So those are what we call the accounts. So if you say we are going to debit assets and credit liability, so on the liability side, it won't be saying that it's completely wrong, even though, but you'll have to specify what type of a liability is it. Is it a short term, long term? And if we're talking long term, we'll be talking about your loans, mortgage. If it's short term, we're talking about your account payable and not payable. So you have to classify the account, exactly which account within the assets and exactly which account within the liability.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question? Okay. In absence of questions, This then allows us to move to the third question. Makes payment to municipality where we pay them water and electricity account. So what will be the account debited and account credited? Let's hear it from you guys. Which will be the account credited and account debited? Let's hear it on the chat section. I see no one is typing so far yet. I still okay, this one says Tlulugelo says bank will be credited, or is Cholugelo or Chulugelo, I'm not sure, but I hope I said it right. And then Tando says bank will be debited and capital will be credited. So we've got people saying that these are the ones say bank will be credited. Tando says bank will be debited, capital will be credited. Pearl says bank debited. What other account will be credited? We haven't found an account that will be credited, except for Tlulugelo says bank will be credited. So far, I think one person is correct. I will not let you know who's that person who is correct. And why is the person correct? We've got two people now that are correct, actually. Okay, starting with Pearl. Pearl says that bank will be debited. Okay, so starting with Tlulugelo says bank will be credited. So yes, this is correct. Bank will be credited. Money is going out of the business. We are making a payment. So once we are making a payment, it means that we are using money. And while we are using money, our bank account is an asset. Assets decrease on the credit side. So therefore, the moment when money goes out, our bank account will therefore be credited. So this side, we're going to have the bank account. And then since we're paying water and electricity from the municipality, we are going to debit the water and electricity account. So we're going to debit the water and electricity account. So we've got few people who got it correct. We cannot debit bank because bank is not increasing, it is decreasing. Like I did mention before that for you to understand this much better, think of it as if you are the one running the business. This is your business, this is your account. So if money is going out of your pocket, it means that your bank account is going down. And while your bank account is going down, this means that you need to understand the bank is an asset. Assets decrease on the credit side, so it means that you need to credit your bank. And then assets on the T account, they increase on the debit account, on the debit account. So meaning that your expense will therefore goes up on the debit side. And therefore that will be your plus. So let me just quickly check on the list if there is anyone who raised their hand, since I was busy on the chat section. Okay, no hand. So this then brings us to now to our fourth one, buy goods for cash. Let's see this one, buy goods for cash. What will be the account debited? What will be the account credited? Say Gina says trade inventory will be debited. Tato says debit trade inventory as well. Ntokozo, inventory will be debited, bank will be credited. Pearl says inventory debited, bank credited. And then also Tato came back and said that we'll also credit bank. And Tando says bank will be credited. Mamelo bank credited. So yes, we are buying goods for cash. So once we are buying goods for cash, it means that money is going out of the business. So that means that bank will be credited. And this time around, we're buying goods. So this means that trading, inventory, or just inventory, you can just randomly write inventory. So depending on how you write it, you can just write inventory will therefore be debited as it will be going up. And then this brings us now to the third last, sell goods on credit. Sell goods on credit. Let's here sell goods on credit. Which account is affected? Which account is debited? Which account is credited? Okay, guys, let's use the chat section the most so that I can be able to, so that it doesn't take me time to just be switching to the other side and this side. So this one, sell goods on credit. We've got Maanda saying that, or Maanda saying that debit inventory credit bank account. Tando saying debit. I'm not sure what she was saying there, and sales credited. But she mentioned that sales will be credited. Kulu says debit account receivable, credit sales. Kamo says debtors control, debited, and sales credited. Debited debtors and credit sales, credited sales. This is Tato. Tokozo inventory, credited, and bank debited. Pearl, bank debited, and sales credited. So in this case, we are saying that we are selling goods on credit. So people that got this one correct, we are selling goods on credit. So meaning that our debtors, someone is buying from us on credit, we are not going to receive cash now. So that person becomes our debtor, and a debtor is an asset. So therefore an asset increase on the debit side. So meaning that on the debit side, we are going to have the following. We're going to have our debtor, or you can call this creditors debtors control. And then since this is a sales, so therefore your sales are also going to go up. But remember, we are selling goods, so which means that there are other two more accounts that will be affected. Your inventory is gonna go down. While your inventory goes down, your what as well, your cost of sales will also go up. So meaning that you can also credit your inventory and then debit your cost of sales. Cost of sales is an expense, so therefore it will increase. And then inventories and assets, it decrease on the credit side. But we're normally gonna be focusing on just only two accounts. So all of those that says that debtors should be debited and then they got this 100% correct. For the first one, debit inventory credit bank, it's incorrect. And then the other ones as well says inventory credit and then bank debited. It's incorrect. Just going to the list just to see if there's someone who just like to ask a question through the mic. Yes, Ntokos, I see your hand is up. You can unmute and ask.
Hey, don't you get like 2 marks for the debit or the credit, or like your things need to, if maybe one account is correct and the other account is not correct, you're going to get two wrongs like one wrong.
No, each and every account have its own mark allocation. So if you get one account incorrect, that other account will be marked incorrect, the other one will be marked right. The one that is right will be marked right. The one that is incorrect will be marked incorrect.
So another question was like, sometimes you use two accounts. Like here you use sales and you said inventories. So are both of these correct? Or if you write debtors, you need to write sales, and if you write something else, you need to write like inventory.
So here's the thing, if you go and also include the other account, or maybe you didn't mention sales, but on this side you went and mentioned that we're going to credit inventory account. Inventory account, of course, is going to be credited as the third account affected as well, because like I didn't mention, there are 4 accounts affected in this transaction. Sales goes up, the debtors as well goes up because now people owes us. Our sales is going up because we're selling. Our inventory is going down, so meaning that we have to credit it. And then cost of sales, it's also going up, so meaning that we have to debit it. So if you included those second 2 accounts, you will still get the marks for those second 2 accounts. So I won't limit you and say that I'm only looking for 2. Yes?
Can you like explain briefly like the difference between a debtor and a creditor?
Okay, a debtor is someone who owes you. For example, if I come to you and you are actually selling something and I say, I want to buy whatever you're selling, I want you to get it from you on credit, I will pay you later on. And that's what a debtor is. And then there is you going to your friend who's selling specific something. The person is selling smartphone. You go to your person, you are also selling smartphone as well. You go and stock cell phone from your friend on credit. Say, I want these cell phones, I want to sell them on credit. I want to sell them as well. So give me them on credit. I will then go and sell them. Once I sell them, I will then pay you back. So when you buy those cell phones from your friend, you are then that's what we call your creditor. You become a creditor, someone you owe, and then a debtor is someone that owes you. So you're going to owe your friend, so meaning that on your accounts yourself, you're going to show that you've got a creditor who is your friend who supplied you the phones that you're going to sell on to your customers. And then when I come in and buy that smartphone on credit, I become a debtor to you. So that's the difference between a debtor and a creditor. So creditors, people that owes the business. Debtors, creditors are people that the business owe money to, and then debtors are people that owes the business money. Yes, Ma, and I see your hand is up.
Sir,
Yes.
is it okay to say savings account instead of banking account?
On the accounting equation or classification of accounts, saving account, it's one where you get to put money and earn sort of like interest. So we're gonna only classify that as a saving account when you're actually investing some money into a savings account. So on a normal business transaction, we're gonna have a normal bank account. So let me just explain this, so how it works, even in reality, like in a world of work or in a normal business. A business, when it has got a business account, if the business is going to, when a business have a business account, the business account is not supposed to earn any interest over money made. So whenever you go and buy something from that business, they will not make any profit or any income over the general bank account. If they want to earn interest, they will have to open a business savings account. When they've got a business saving account, they can then transfer the money that they have to a business savings account and then earn specific interest based on the amount they invested. So on a business side, a savings account is the one where we invest our money. A bank account is the one where we do our normal transactions. So they get to be separated. For example, if you're running, sorry?
No, you can continue.
Yes, you managed to get it.
Yes, I understand that.
All right. So moving forward, pay creditors. What will be the bank? So this I think will be the last one, because the last one I think it's a very easy one. We've done this multiple times in class. So let's just work on this one, pay creditors. Which account is debited, which account is credited? So Sejina says bank credited, Tanda creditors will be debited, bank credited, Prulu debit, account payable, credit bank, Dokozo creditors control debited, bank debited, and bank credited. Kamkalo says bank will be credited, Mamelo bank credited, Hell creditors will be debited and bank will be debited, and then creditors debited. So yes, this is the correct treatment. So I would just like to congratulate all of you guys and for the efforts of trying to understand something that you didn't manage to know before we started with our lesson, but now it seems like you understood the whole concept of the accounting equation and the treatment that for each and every account, two accounts, for each and every transaction, two accounts are affected. And for those accounts, when they're affected, it's either that account that is affected will have a positive or negative effect, and understanding that which account increases on which side and decreases on which side, which allows you to be able to identify whether the account will be debited or credited. So on the last statement, the bank decreases, and therefore, since we're paying creditors, so our creditors control or our account payable. So depending on how you write it, you can write account payable, you can round creditors control, you can write trade credit. So it is still fine as long as you understand which concept you are using. To you do not mix the concept, you just write one specific transactions. Every time if you're classifying a creditor as account payable, you're going to write account payable. If you classify it as creditors control, write it as creditors control. So it's going to be debited because our creditors decrease on the debit side, and this time we're paying them, so meaning that we'll be owing them less, so which means that we then get to debit. Bank money is going out and it decreases on the credit side, so we're going to credit what? Bank. So the last one is a bonus one, so we're not going to do it. We've done this so many times. So this just indicates that on your assessment, you guys can be able to score at least a pass mark based on the understanding of this, because I think the recording of financial information holds 35%, and the business mathematics holds another 30%, which guarantees me that based on this, you can be able to achieve at least a 50% pass rate with just only the two sections that we mentioned on the briefing. So starting with today's lesson. So today's lesson, we're not going to deal with engine. We're just going to take a look at the BODMAS and the laws of mathematics. And then we're going to lastly finish off with finding the missing figures, which is part of your formative assessment, which you also need to understand. So the learning outcome is that by the end of the lesson, you need to be able to understand the operations, order of operation, which is your BODMAS, your and then also understanding the commutative and cumulative and associative distributive laws, finding the missing figures. And on the next lesson that we're going to have, we're going to be talking about powers, exponents, roots, as well as mental arithmetic squares. So we're all aware of the BODMAS rule. So the most important thing that is important about the BODMAS rule is working with a dividing line, where you have got information on top of the brackets that says 2 minus 3 multiplied by 2. And then you have got something underneath the bracket saying 2 out of 2 multiplied by 6. So this is something that we call a divide line. So which means that you have got a full expression on top, which is the numerator, and the full expression is the denominator. So when you get to solve this kind of calculation, you need to solve them simultaneously. Whatever you're doing on the top side, which is the numerator side, by solving it, also solve it on the bottom side simultaneously, and you will still need to apply the BODMAS rule. So the BODMAS rule still need to be applied to say that we start by whatever it's in the brackets. From the brackets, we look for orders, where the order can be the square root, can be the exponential. If there is one of those, after the brackets, we work the exponential or the square roots. And then from that point, we then move towards the division and multiplication. So division and multiplication can be done simultaneously if they are there in one scenario or one expression. And you can do them, especially if they're separated by a plus or a minus. And then after that, you can do simultaneously the addition and subtraction. And if you do not want to do them simultaneously, you start by doing the addition, then followed by the subtraction as a division. And then this brings us to the commutative, associative, and distributive laws in terms of mathematics. So when you're working with mathematics or when you're working with numbers, there will be time where you are going to create what we call equations and expressions. So an equation and expression can be written in different ways, but still give you the same meaning as well as the same answers. So here it says that under the commutative law, you can swap numbers around and still get the same answer. For example, when you say A plus B is the same as B plus A. When you multiply A multiplied by B, it's still the same as saying B multiplied by A. So that is the commutative law. It doesn't matter which letter you start with, as long as they can still give you the same value. So that is what we call the commutative law. You can be able to swap numbers and still get the exact same answer. And then we've got the associative law, which says that does not matter how you group the numbers together. When multiplying, for example, A multiplied by B in bracket multiplied by C will still give you the same answer as A multiplied by B multiplied by C, only if we're working with multiplication. And then also when we're working with addition, to say that A plus B plus C will still be the same as A plus in brackets B plus C. So for example, is to say that 2 plus 2 plus 2 will equals to 2. Let me just say 4 here, will be the same as equals to 2 plus 4 will still give us the same answer. So it will not change. The same way applies if it was 2 multiplied by 2, then multiplied by 4. It's still the same as 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 4. So it was the give us the exact same law. So as long as you are doing multiplication and addition, and those numbers that the multiplication, everything is being multiplied within the expression, therefore you can rewrite the expression in a different format and get the same answer. Adding everything up in an expression, then you can rewrite your expression in a different way and still get the same answer. And then we've got the distributive law. So the distributive law only works when you're doing what we call multiplications. You can then distribute the multiplication and then make it an addition to say that you get the same answer when you multiply an n by a group of number added together, or do each multiplication separately, then add them together. Here they're saying that if you go and say A equal A multiplied B plus C, this can be written as A multiplied by B plus A multiplied by C. So which means that our answer is going to be AB plus AC. So you can write it in this expression instead of writing it in this expression. So this might look not helpful, but when you're in a work environment dealing with numbers, these are things that you come across and you still have to apply this principle. You will apply them without even remembering that you are applying the distributive law or associative law or commutative law, but you still need to be able to understand that you can switch around the expression and then work around it in a different view. That will allow you to simplify the whole situation so that you are able to understand what you are actually calculating. And then this then brings us to finding the missing figure. In finance, this is almost all the case. There's either a document missing, either a transaction that occurred or charges that were charged that we did not manage to take that into account. So for us to be able to identify how much and then what was the transaction, we need to be able to find what was missing. So in here, we refer this as the missing figure. So in finance, this is something that you're always going to work around with. For example, most of the time when you guys get some either allowance from home or either you receive your salary if you're working, you will spend your salary with a budget that you have, and then you will notice that somewhere, somehow, the money that you spend and the money that you are supposed to have as a balance does not actually add up. So meaning that there is something missing in between. There's either a charge that you are not aware of, or a transaction that you did but you forget, only to remember later on that you actually bought yourself a takeaway and then you didn't actually account for that within your budget. So that means that when you take a look into your statement, you'll have to try to figure out what actually went wrong by actually looking for something that is missing. So by looking at your budget, you will see that, okay, everything adds up with what you spent, but still information is not balancing. So until you discover that you actually bought a takeaway. So in a business, this kind of situation also does happen. So here we're just going to use this activity just to actually see if you can be able to brainstorm and be able to identify what is missing and the pattern, as well as to solve for missing figures. So you will need a paper trial for you to do so. But here we are saying that let's just work this around with a simple information and see if you can be able to point things out. So it says that Bright Light Media, we've got Q1 sales figures, which are coming from the advertising slots. So meaning that we are running an advertising business. So we've got numbers of billboards and all those stuff. So now we have to identify missing information. So we've got a slot that goes for 1.5 minutes, which means that we are running a visual billboard. So meaning that you can see videos while people are passing. So for 1.5 minutes, we've got 25 sales, February, 34, March 20, and then the total we don't know. And then for 3 minutes, we don't know, we don't have the information. February, we have 40, March, we've got 31, total, we've got 104. 3.5 minutes, we've got 40 unknown, 42 unknown, 5 minutes I've got 25, 20, G unknown, and then I've got 60, and then the total is unknown, and 149, 108, 308. So I'm gonna give you guys just like 2 or 3 minutes just to work this around, just identify, just give me the figures for all the missing element. You can use the chat section once you have written them, all of them down. Just type them all of them in one section and just say A equals to 20, B equals to 60, just like that. There is no order that you can use. You can use any order that you like. You can start with B, you can start with F, you can start with C, it doesn't matter. So just calculate to me and give me the figures in the next coming 3 minutes. So meaning that by 5 past, I'll be reading out the results and letting you know which are the correct amounts. So 5 past, just be writing down and comment your final figures. I'll also check the chat section as well. Okay, time is up, so now we can reveal our final figures. So let's see, Homogelo E79, Tato A33, B123, C55, D115, E79, Tokozo A33, Tato A33, Tato B23, Mamelo A33, B123, C55, D15. So let's see if the answers are correct. So there are multiple ways in which and where you can actually start, depending on how and where your mind sets you to start. So you can start by this, by E, which will be your first answer in this case. Or you can start by C, which could also be your first start point. Or you could also start by A, which could be your first start point, or you can start by D, which could also be your first start point. But you can never start with F, because F, you have got so many unsolved, where you don't have E, you also don't have C. B, you can also not solve it without A, so this means that B and F cannot be a first option, but the rest can actually be your first options. So in this case, meaning that let's assume that you started with E, which is the first row. So if you started with E, your final answer will be 79. And then because that's going to be sales for January, February, and March, and then that gives you the total for 1.5 minute slots for quarter one, under 1.5 minute slots. And then you can also go in number A, which is 3 minutes on row number 2, by going and saying that for us to get a total of 104, it means that we need to combine A plus B. We need to combine the January, February, and March to get this. So therefore, you're going to say 104 minus 31 minus 40, and therefore your final answer will be for A. And therefore A becomes what? 33. And then you can then move to the third row. On the third row, you can do number C first. By doing number C, you can go and say 149 minus 34 minus 40 minus 20, and therefore you'll get your C to be 55. But also again, someone might do E and then go and solve for F by saying 79 plus 104 plus 60 plus F. It's supposed to give us 380. This means that for us to get F, we are going to say 380 minus everything that we already have, which is 79, minus 104, minus 60. Then this will give us F, which F will become then 137. And then you can then solve for 55 and confirm if this is actually 55 by saying 137 minus 42 and minus 40 should give me 55. And then you can move to row number 4, which then says 25 for January, 20 for February, and March. We don't know, it's unknown for a slot for 5 minutes. And the total is 60, so that's going to be 60 minus 20 minus 25. Therefore, this means that D will actually be 15. And then you can solve for E. So you can solve for B. B can be solved in 2 ways. You can either work with the totals and say 380 minus 108 minus 149, or you can go and say 25 plus 33 plus 40 plus 25, which therefore gives you B to be equals to 123. So let's see the chart section. It seems like everyone managed. There is only one person that wrote something that Fulofelo wrote B to be 143. I'm not sure if it's a typing error. It was supposed to be 123. Everything is correct, so I'll assume that it's a typing error. So this is something that you'll have to review on your work. So the only time I'll apply a discretion and mark the 143, it will be based on the overall of your work. If the overall of your work, there are less mistakes like this, therefore I can apply a discretion and say that I'm giving you a mark for this. This might be a typing error or a writing error for your assessment. So all of these the discretion gets to be applied based on number of principles. You are writing, your number of making mistakes, So if you are a mistake-making person in terms of your assessment, you've made so many mistakes. So discretion will only be allowed on one specific mistake that is can just be shown. But if you have shown your calculation and say that B, I've got it by saying, for example, it's number B, by saying that 25 plus 33 plus 40 plus 25, and then you write 143. I will understand that in your head it was 123, but then you by mistake you write 143, and I'll give you a mark for that. So those are things that we also checked when assessing in this kind of question. So a lot of errors can happen. So everyone managed to get this right, which means that this might have been a very simple and a straightforward scenario. So let's just take a look at activity 2B on page 66. Activity 2B on page 66. Okay, here's our activity. So can we try to do activity C? I'm not sure if it is visible or not. Where's my... I'll try to zoom in as much as I can so that you can see. So when you fill in this one or when you answer this question over here, you are going to write Jake's February, and then you just write Jake's Feb, and then you give the amount total, and just write Jake's total, and you give me the amount. Vilakazi January, you say Jan, and then you put the amount in front, and then you're gonna say Kutse, and then you're gonna say March, and then you give the amount, and then you're gonna say Kutse, and then say total, you give the amount, so that I can be able to track on which cell does the amount that you're giving me belongs to. And then Msimang, you're gonna say Msimang, and then you're gonna say February, and I know that, okay, this is for this question mark. And then January total, then you're gonna give me the amount. That's how you're going to write it. So let's just quickly do this one in the meantime. Try to solve this one in the meantime. If you are done, you can send your answers on the chat section. So it is important that you understand and note every activity that we perform, like I did mention. Everything is relevant towards your assessment. So I will not test you or focus on something that is not relevant towards your competency or assessment. This is on page 66 on a textbook, if you have got your textbook next to you. Okay, 1 more minute remaining. So I'm expecting answers in the next 1 minute. Okay, the time is up. I'm just gonna give you guys the next 30 seconds just to give me the answers, and then I will tell you if your answers are 100% correct or they need adjustments. Okay, Vilakazi is saying that Jan, it's 5,190. So yes, Vilakazi January, it's 100% correct. For Vilakazi Jan, it's 5,190, which could be calculated using the February, March, and the total of 14,150. And by taking the 14,150 and subtract all the February and March commission to get the Vilakazi January commission. And then Pearl says that Jake's February, it's 4,601 and total is 13,816. So which means that so those are 100% correct. I'm just trying to figure out the way on which you calculated as you started with them first. And by the look of things, there are 2 question marks on both sides, which means that you didn't start with them. You might started with other, and then you just typed in starting with the first few that you saw. So meaning that the first starting point will actually be Vilakazi, Jan, which is 5,190. And then the second one that will move into will actually be March, will actually be Coetzee March. And Coetzee March, we are saying that it will be 5,624, which when after doing the March of Coetzee, you're gonna do then the total for Coetzee, which is going to be 17,009. And then after that, you can then move backwards to Jake's total. From Jake's total will be 13,816. And then you can move to Jake's Feb, which Jake's Feb you'll use the total you just got and then calculate to be 4,681. And then after that, you can then move to Msimang February. And then Msimang February, since you'll be having Jake's February, you can then use Jake's February plus Vilakazi February, Coetzee February, and subtract them from the total. This will give you Msimang February. Or you can go and say that the total for Msimang commission is 13,230 minus his March commission and general commission will give you the February commission. And then the January 1 total will actually be your Vilakazi commission, Jake's commission, Coetzee commission, and Msimang commission. That will actually give you a total of 19,290. And Msimang Feb, it's 4,694. So everyone got the answers correct. So this is what you will be dealing with in terms of your assessment, and in a real work environment, this is something that you deal with. But when you deal with in a work environment, you'll be tracking all the information. You can write it either in this tabular format or you can write it in a different format. But when there's a paper trail or when there is something missing, especially inventory, this is how you get to identify inventory that is missing within a business. Because during the normal operation of the business, you will take your inventory from the warehouse and then deliver it to the shop. And then from the shop, they will tell you we only sell 20,000. And then only to discover that you delivered 25,000. And then on top again, on your system is saying that you had 25,000, you delivered to the shop 25,000. So you should be left with nothing. But on the system, it's showing you that everything that is left so far, it's 3,000, so there is something missing. So you'll have to figure out how much is missing and where is it missing, on which specific transaction was it missing from, and then the date as well as everything. And then you can be able to adjust the system. Same applies to sales. When you sell stuff, you can sell something to a customer and say that the customer paid cash 5,000 and then the rest he used a debit card. But you might forget to actually get to record that on the system or down, and therefore you might find that something is not adding up when it comes to your revenue. So you need to identify how much of revenue it's missing. So you'll be able to identify that and pick it up at a later stage by following what? Using the missing figure skills to say that this is how much we had, this is how much we made, this is how much we sold. On this transaction we were supposed to be having, but we're not having that amount. So what actually happened? So you're going to apply that in a real world scenario. So then this then brings us to our next part of our lesson, where we talked about average. So our next part is talking about average, calculating average on a daily basis. I don't know how many times I calculate these on a daily basis. It's something that I deal with on a daily basis, left and right. So it is very much important to understand how to calculate averages as well as how to estimate something that after applying the averages. So taking a look at this activity that is here on the textbook or this. So it says that average can be calculated by taking the total sum of all numbers in a set and divide it by the actual number of the numbers in the set. So these numbers that we're saying in the set, we call them observation. So all of these, we call them observations. So after you identify how your set is looking like, so you'll then classify that we have got observations. Observation will be depending on the number of students. So in this case, we're saying a class test in April 2022. Attendance, we've got student numbers. We've got attendance by student. We've got section A score, section B score, section C score, total and final mark. So the student number 1 attended 10 days and managed to score the following on the test: section 1 38, section B 28, section C 19, and then in total 85, final mark 86. Student number 2 8 attendance, and then section A got 26, section B goes 25, section C 16, and then his total mark 67. And then student number 3, he attended 4 times in the within the 10 days attendance, and then he scored 23 on section A, 22 on section B, section C scored 12, so his total mark was 57, his final mark 57. And then student number 4 attended 9 days out of 10, then managed to score 40 in section A, and then section B scored 10, section C 9. This means that his total came to 59. And then student number 5 attended 3 out of 10 days, scored 20 in section A, 16 section B, section C 12, and therefore scored 48, and therefore final mark 48. And then we've got the totals below for sections that have been scored by students, and then here we've got the total in terms of attendance. So to calculate average for attendance, we are going to add all of these up, which gonna give us the total of 34. This 34 will therefore be divided by the total sum of observation. Total sum of observation, we come and say that we are looking in terms of observation. We have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this observation, what are they based on? Are they based on 1s, 10s, 30s, 40s, 50s? So these are all based on 10s, on 10 days. So this means that it's going to be 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, giving us 50. So therefore, to calculate the average, I'm trying to see if my calculator is open. So to calculate the average, you're actually going to say what? 34 divided by 50, where the 50 represent the total number of attendance for each and every student. Each and every student was supposed to attend 10 days, but they did not attend the whole 10 days. So in total, the number of observation in total is supposed to be 50. And therefore, based on the number of attendance by the student, the total observation of attendance is 34. So therefore, we're going to say 34. So we're going to have 34 divided by 50, giving you what? 0.68. So 0.68 is the decimals, is the percentage in decimal format. This is the average. So to get the percentage, you multiply this by 100, and therefore you get to a percentage of 68. So I know that you are familiar with this, but I'll just ask you guys to just attempt to perform an average for section A and section B alone. Please just do the one for section A and then section B. Average in decimal format and average in percentage.
Sir?
Yes?
Why did we have to divide by 50 instead of 10 in the first one?
So if we divide by 10, we are saying that the observation are 5, right? So we've got 5 students, which is the observation, but with each observation, we're looking at attendance days. So attendance days, we're saying that the students are supposed to attend over 10 days. So this one attended 10 out of 10, this one attended 8 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 3 out of 10. So in total, we've got 34 attendance on the total overall of 50, which is the 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10. So therefore, we go and say 34 divided by 50.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes, oh, okay, I see it's you. It's Fumo who was speaking. Okay, just type in your answers on the chat sections. And then we'll just confirm and then move forward. And I'm going to ask you a very tricky question so that I can see if you completely understood and you can be able to reverse the calculations. So far, all the answers on the chat sections are correct. Okay, all the answers on the chat sections are correct. So here we've got 147 out of 250, where the 250 is the observation, which is 38 out of 50, 26 out of 50, 23 out of 50, 40 out of 50, and 20 out of 50. So that's 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50. That's going to give us 250. and therefore the total is going to be 147 out of 250. And then once you calculate this, it's going to give you 0.588 when you round it off to multiplied by 100. That's 58.8%. Some rounded it off to 59%. And then the other one is 67.3%. So now the question will come in some point in time and say that I'm just going to use the same activity. So I'm just going to try and do this just to quickly confirm something for us to use. I'm going to use this space this side. So I want you to confirm that this is 16% through reverse calculation. These are the student marks. They got 19 out of 20. Here we don't know how much marks they got. This one got 12 out of 20. This one got 9 out of 20. This one 5 out of 12. And then you're also given that the percentage is 56.67%. Can we be able to reverse and calculate and confirm if this student actually got 16 out of 20? That's what I want you to be able to do. Can you be able to reverse that if you're given an average to reverse and then be able to get the student mark for student number 2 marks for this test? I want you to confirm that it is 16 out of 20 without using the 16 out of 20. Assume that you are not aware that it is 16 out of 20. This is the only information you are given. If you can reverse this calculation, it means that you will never have a struggle with mathematics when it comes to averages, missing figures, or any of those kind. So how many of you have managed to get the answer? Can I see by raise of hands those who managed to get the 16? Those who managed to confirm that the final answer is 16, can I see by raise of hands? So for you to identify this, that it is 16, or for you to identify the student missing mark, your calculation will be based on follow. You do know that if you were to calculate this, your final answer is going to give you an average of 56.67% for this total marks allocation. So meaning that you're supposed to know that X over 120, because this is 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20. Is it 5? 1, 2, 2, 4, 6, or 100? I think I used the wrong answer there. I think it was supposed to say 6, so it's not 16%. So the final answer will not be 16%, but you're supposed to get a different answer because now we've got 5 students, so that's 100, not 160. So X over 100 is supposed to give you 56.67%. So this means that this is out of 100. So which means that if you go and say this, therefore it's gonna still give you 57. So assuming that this is 57%, I'll just assume that it's 57% just to get you to the answer. So if it's 57 out of 100, that gives us 56.67 or 57%. So we're gonna go and say 19 plus X plus 12 plus 9 plus 12 equals to 57%. And therefore you're gonna go and say X is equals to 57 minus, you're gonna add everything on this side and go and say 19 plus 12 plus 9 plus 12 equals to 52. And therefore your X will therefore be equals to 5. So this will actually be the marks that the student score. So when you put in these marks over here, this means that your final figure is supposed to say 57 out of 100, and then when converted into a percentage, it will still give you 57%. So if I've added another one here, that will then allow us to get the 60 out of 60. So I added this wrongly. So that's why I was saying 16%. So this is how you get to reverse the calculation. So assuming that, let's say there was student number 6 over here. So this means that if the average was 56%, so this will be 56.67 out of 100. And therefore in decimal, it will be 0.5667. So since we are calculating it out of 120, we're going to multiply this by 120, and then it's gonna give you 68. So meaning that this student, the final total marks, is 68 out of 120, and therefore you can then go and say 19 plus X plus 12 plus 9 plus 12 plus this last student marks. Let's say you assume that the last student got 0. So this means that you're going to then say what? 19 plus X plus 12 plus 9 plus 12 plus 0 equals to 68. And therefore when you solve this, that's when X is going to be equal to 68 minus 57, sorry, 52. 52, where X is going to be 16. That's when X is going to be equal to 16. So this is how you get to solve and reverse an average calculation. So I just hope this becomes helpful one day when you're working with your averages and you're trying to reverse engineer to actually get to identify what was the missing figure here that was used. So you might have all the information and this might be a missing figure. So sometimes you have to apply or use average to get back to where you were because the final figure might be in an average format. And then the powers of exponents and roots here, I'll just, I won't talk much about, I'll just read what is here. We're not going to test you on this. So it says that when you multiply two variables with the same base, you can add the exponent to say that if it is 2 to the power of 2 plus 4 to the power of 2, you can then, 2 to the power of 4 is the same as just going and saying 2 to the power of 2. If you are multiplying, here. So let me just write it clear. So we're saying if you're saying 2 to the power of 2 multiplied by 2 to the power of 4, you can then go and say 2 is equals to 2 plus 2 to the power of 2 plus 4, giving you 2 to the power of 6. This is the same as this. It can be expressed in this format. They will all still give you the same answer. This is the rule of exponential. And then again, the second rule is that when you have an exponent expression that is raised to the power, you can multiply the exponent and the power. So meaning that if here you have got 2 to the power of 2, close brackets, to the power of 4. So this is the same as going and saying 2 to the power of 2 times 4, giving you 2 to the power of 8. And then here, if we have got an expression that says that in brackets, 2x to the power of 2, and then here it's 3 or either 2. This is the same as having 2x squared multiplied by 2x squared multiplied by 2x squared, and then, or you can just apply this format that we just showed you here based on that. But remember, the 2 as well have to be put it in an exponential format. And then here it says that anything to the power of 0 becomes 1. So if we have got 40 to the power of 0, this is equals to 1. 40 to the whatever number to the power of 0 becomes 1. And then if we have got an exponential that is 1 out of 2, this is equivalent to a square root. So meaning that if we say 2 to the power of 1 over 2, this is the same as square root of 2. And then if you have got a negative root, for example, we have got 3 to the power of minus 1. This is the same as 1 over 3. If it says 3 to the power of minus 2, this is the same as 2 out of 3. So I hope you managed to get this. So this is not something that is difficult. You just need to understand this for future use when you're ever going to deal with numbers. But if you know that you're not going to deal with numbers, this is not helpful. But one thing that I'll advise is that if you're going to become a journalist or a broadcaster and you're going to be dealing with financial information, it is good that you understand your mathematics skills so that you can be able to ask the relevant question and understand the answer that you'll be getting from the person, so that if it's something that they calculated on the spot, you can be able to rectify or agree with the person if they've done it correctly. So this is something that you will need. So whether you become a journalist for all sectors, if you're interviewing someone from engineering, you still need to understand some of the basic skills of mathematics, which is this, because that's what they adopt and these are the rules they use. If they show you the calculations on how things are done and you have to write a journal article on that, you need to confirm these as well yourself before you submit to your editor as well as your publisher. And then I think this brings us to the end of our lesson. So on our next lesson, we're going to be dealing with fractions, and let me just quickly check. We're going to be dealing with fractions. Fraction ratios, as well as addition and subtraction of ratios. So those are the things. So it is actually going to be a practical lesson. So please make sure that you have got your piece and paper next to you, and then you're able to give me the final answer that is simplified. So when we work with fraction is what we work with on a daily basis on our daily lives. Work or with no work, you still have to apply fractions. How much when you take out numbers of slice, you know how many slices are left in a loaf, those kind of stuff. When you're in a taxi and then you know the taxi is not full, there are 10 passengers, everyone have paid, so therefore how much is the amount of people who have been paid? For example, to say that we have got 4 seats not seated, the taxi is a 14-seater for passengers, so therefore 14 minus 10 minus 4, this means that we've got 10 customers who are supposed to pay. And then if it's 20 rand, you know that is supposed to be 280. So minusing the 4, which means that we've got a number of somewhere around 80 rand that is not going to be paid. So the total is supposed to be 200. So you're actually dealing with fraction there. So it's something that we work with on a normal basis. And also budget allocation. When you do budgets, we deal with fraction, percentage, and fractions. When you talk about your interest over the loans, they are calculated using a fraction to say that for this month, if we're charging you 20% annually, so it's going to say your balance multiplied by 20%, multiplied by 1 out of 2 if you are paying for, multiplied by 1 out of 12 if you are paying for 1 month. If you have missed 2 payments and you're supposed to pay interest for 2 months, then it's going to say 2 out of 12. So those are something that we work with on a daily basis. So those are the things we'll be covering on our next lesson. So any question for this lesson so far? Is there anyone with a question so far for this lesson? So please note that everything we perform activities, you need to take note of that and try to use that when you're studying, also focus on that as well. So in absence of questions, this will be the end of our lesson. I will upload the recording and share the link with you guys on Call Campus. So this is, which means that we'll meet on Friday. You enjoy the rest of your week until we see each other on Friday online. Thank you very much for showing up.